his son Fred first our current master distiller. Now Fred's son Freddie will be our next master distiller, and all that construction that you see right behind you, that's going to be Freddie's craft distillery. Still growing. Y'all want to follow me? We'll go ahead and get started, and if you don't mind, help me thank Danny for grabbing us down. This is actually just a replica of the well house that Jim built when Jim purchased the property that we're on now. So he bought this place 2 years into Prohibition, hoping Prohibition wouldn't last very long. Of course, it did go on for 13 years. So at some point he realizes he needs to do something else with this property in the meantime. So he turned it into a rock quarry. And that's all he was doing in Prohibition. He was just kind of hoping that he could feed his family. Now, the smartest thing Jim did during Prohibition is he hired a whole bunch of people that had lost their jobs in other distilleries to work for him at his rock quarry. So it helped them out, but it also helped him out, because once Prohibition ended, he had this whole team of people that had worked in a distillery before. So it only took him 120 days to get this plant up and running, as soon as he could. And he was 71 years old at the time. So he jumped right in. Now, the main focus of our tour today will be the 5 rules of bourbon. Y'all know these rules?
We're gonna find out.
I can't tell yet. Yeah. No, we're definitely going to talk about a lot of misconceptions about what makes a bourbon, so we like to clear those up. At the end of the tour, there's going to be this huge quiz, and then however you do on your quiz will determine how much bourbon afterward.
No.
Is it too early for that joke? No, we'll be fine. Yeah, you're going to get bourbon no matter what, so don't worry.
It's never too early for some bourbon.
Yeah. No, it'll be a good time. So we just talk about them because they're interesting. So rule number 1, where do you have to make bourbon to legally call it a bourbon? Do you know?
Nice.
Ooh, see? People think you have to make it in Kentucky. Morally, I'd say you're right. But legally, all you have to do is make it in the United States. That's it. Anywhere in the US, and you can call that stuff bourbon. However, 95% of the entire world's bourbon is made here in Kentucky because it's easy to make it here. Bless you. We sit on a limestone shelf. The water that we're using is naturally limestone filtered water. Automatically, that gives you a sweeter bourbon rather than a bitter bourbon. Our weather here in Kentucky helps us out because it's awful, and we're also next to so that's the gist. Yeah, we'll talk about all these details as we go through. Of the 95% that's made here in Kentucky, Jim Beam is responsible for making 1/3 of that. So that's the scale that we're going to be talking about today. Any questions before we really dive in? I only have 2 rules. We're a nice small group. Don't touch the things that are labeled hot, and don't wander off. I gotta go back to the gift shop with the same number of people I left with, so, or else they get upset. All right, we'll go right through this door. Rule number 1, make it in the United States. Rule number 2, when you're making it, make sure that your mash bill or your grain recipe is at least 51% corn. Corn has to be your main ingredient, but then you get to pick everything else that you use. Now, as far as I know, everybody is using malted barley as well. Malted barley has an enzyme that helps turn your starches into sugars. Sugar is really important for fermentation, and fermentation is really important because that's how we get our alcohol. That's why we're here. So the 2 on the ends are just a given for any bourbon distillery. But this one could change from distillery to distillery. Depends on how you want your bourbon to taste. If you wanted it to be a little bit sweeter, you might decide on a wheat instead. Now we want ours to be spicy, so that's why we're using rye. It brings like a peppery spice to your bourbon. It's pretty much across the board, wheat or rye, wherever you go. Now we do get our corn from here in Kentucky. Those other 2 grains do a lot better in colder climates. We'll go as far north as Canada to get those. And when they get here, we're gonna run tests on all 3 to make sure they're in good shape. Make sure they're not too moist, make sure there's not other contaminants in there. Once they pass all of their tests, we can start sending them to the hammer mill. We're not gonna cook it in this form, we're gonna get it down to like a flour, and then we'll start cooking. We are going to make sure that our corn goes into our cooker first, because it will make it. Corn goes in here first because it's the toughest of your 3 grains, so you want to let it cook by itself for a while at the highest temperature. Halfway through your cook time, you can cool it off a little bit and throw the rye in, and then you can cool it off even more and throw your malted barley in last. So it just takes like 45 minutes to cook our grain. Then take it off. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
How is all grain, corn, rye, malt delivered? Is it real corn or is it semis?
Semis.
What type of volume are we talking about in a year?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you for the year. I know that corn alone would go through about 10 to 12 semi-trucks a day. Yeah. It's constantly coming in. Yeah. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, y'all follow me right around this corner. Yeast. Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Nobody ever gets that. So the mash, yeah, it's going to be a big part of your recipe, of course, but it's not going to be the thing that makes you special, your mash bill, because you are required by law to make sure that at least half of your mash bill is the same as everybody else's. So if you really want your bourbon to stand out, it comes down to the yeast strain that you use. Yeast for some distilleries, that's how they bring in their floral, right, or their herbal, or anything like that. Now, we are actually using the same strain that Jim started us off with when Prohibition ended all that time ago. We're doing the same thing you would do if you were trying to make the same sourdough bread every day. All right, we're saving some of this yeast, setting it off to the side. We're going to feed it a little bit of mash, and then tomorrow use it as a starter. Okay, so once we've got enough yeast for today, having used our starter, we're going to fill this fermenter up all the way with mash, throw the yeast on top, and give the yeast 3 days to work its way down through the fermenter. And all it's doing as it's working its way down is it's eating all of the sugar that's in the grain. See, it's my pack grain there in the middle. So it's eating all the sugar in the grain, and these are our 3 byproducts from fermentation. We've got heat, CO2, and alcohol. So on the first day, when you look at a fermenter, you should expect it to be calm on the surface. If you taste it, it should be pretty sweet. It's cool to the touch. By day 2, it's bubbling like crazy. And there's that CO2. Starts escaping off the top of your fermenter. When you put your hand over it, you'll notice quite a bit of warmth, whereas before it hadn't been there. And by day 3, you'll have something that looks, smells, and tastes almost like a beer. In fact, if we had thrown hops in there, we could have turned this into a beer. That's the only difference. We don't. We don't make beer. So we call it a distiller's beer, and after day 3, we can start distillation. Okay, now that 500-gallon fermenter there, how many barrels of distillate do you think we're going to get from that 500-gallon fermenter? 53-gallon barrels. 5? That would be cool. Maybe just one.
One?
Just one, yeah. 5 was close though. There's some people that look at that thing and they're like, oh, 50. And I'm like, man, I wish that would be awesome. Yeah. Here in craft, this is the entire process of how to make bourbon, just 1 barrel at a time. That's all we make in here, 1 barrel a day. Now, we'll take a look at the big distillery just so you don't get too worried. We do make more than 1 barrel a day at Jim Beam. But we'll talk about that here in just a bit. If y'all want to go on upstairs and take a look through that window, we'll talk about distillation next.
Now, what are the craft ones that you're talking about?
So this stuff doesn't go to market. This is kind of a place for us to experiment, play around, and if we ruin it, it's just 1 barrel, which to me is devastating.
But if you don't, then where does it go then?
Well, they'll age it, and they might throw it into a big batch and let it contribute to a big batch. It will never be sold by itself. Yeah. Question. If y'all want to go on up, we do have a fermenter that's full. If you want to check that out as well, and if you want to taste it, you are more than welcome to. Do a little. Mash go in there toward the top. It'll fall through the plates that are inside. The plates have holes in them, so this is where we lose the bulk of the solids that are in there. All that grain, all of that's going to fall through the plates to the very bottom. We'll grab those grains out of that beer still and dry them out, and local farmers are going to stop by and take it home to their cattle. So even the cows here in Kentucky, big Jim Beam fans. Get a pretty sweet deal. Now, as that starts falling in from the top, we're really blasting steam in from the bottom. We're vaporizing the alcohol, essentially. That's the part we care about the most. So the vapor is the only thing that's going to make its way to the very top of that still. And really for us, it's going to go through this spirit still here toward the front. The vapor gets into that low wine cooler, which cools it off and condenses it back down into a liquid. And that liquid's going to start flowing through this tail box here on the left, labeled low wine. So our low wine is 125 proof. And it's kind of cloudy, it's kind of murky. It's the stuff sitting there in the mason jar. It's a lot like a moonshine. You ever had moonshine before? Did you enjoy it? Do you remember? Yeah. It's rough, okay. You can drink the low wine, you probably don't want to. What we'll do is we'll distill it a second time. Distilling it again is really gonna clean it up and smooth it out because we send it through our doubler next. The doubler's gonna boil it. So the proof's gonna climb a little bit because we'll lose some water during this step, but it's also made of copper. Copper is really good at stripping away those impurities and trapping them so that they don't continue on with the product. So once we pull it off the second time and it starts flowing through on the right, that high wine is what we call our finished product before the barrel. Our high wine is 135 in proof. And that's the stuff we're gonna start working with. Now the third rule of bourbon, it's called the proofing rule, and it is it's the most annoying one for me because there's so many parts to it, and it's a lot of numbers. So the first part of the proofing rule, when you are distilling, you are not allowed to let your high wine go above 160. So that would be 80% alcohol. Right, your percentage doubled is your proof. So we can't go above 160 in proof after distillation just because we're trying to maintain the character of a bourbon. If you start going above 160, you're getting into like vodka territory. Okay, so we are at 135. We're okay. The second part of the proofing rule, if you're going to put that stuff into a barrel, it has to go into the barrel at 125 or lower. Well, ours is 135. So we're having to add water to our high wine just a little bit before we start filling our barrels with it. When you bottle your bourbon, you have to bottle it at 80 proof or above. So you'll never see a bourbon in the bottle less than 80 proof. That's not allowed. When you bottle it, it can be as high in proof as you want it to be, as long as it's at least 80. Does that sound good? Did y'all memorize those numbers for your quiz later? No? Don't worry about it. Yeah, if you got them, he's evolved. So I've got some high wine here from craft. This was distilled in craft here. It's already been proofed down to 125 so that we can start filling our barrel here in just a second. And it'd be legal. Now, the barrel is all of rule number 4. Okay. You have to put your distillate in a brand new charred oak barrel, and you have to keep it in this barrel for an extended period of time, whatever that means. And we'll talk about that too. But we get our barrels from a company called Independent Stave. They are putting our barrels together and they're charring them for us as well before they send them here. We ask them to char ours to a level 4. The highest is a level 5. Level 4 means they're going to expose the inside of our barrels to a natural gas flame for about 55 seconds. And really all it's doing is it's caramelizing it, just like anything else. It's going to force the sugars in the barrel to rush to the surface to try to protect it. So now I've got a nice thick layer of sugar right up top where that stuff's going to be sitting. Now that does not look like bourbon yet, right? Because it goes into the barrel looking just like that. And this is where it picks up 100% of its color and a whole bunch of its flavor. So whenever you get, that's a terrible sound. Whatever, there they go again. Busy morning here in Claremont. So whenever you get caramel, vanilla, of course oak, this is where that flavor is coming from. Now rule number 5, this is the last one. Rule number 5 for bourbon, no additives are allowed in your bourbon except water. So now every bit of our color and flavor has come from our grain recipe, our yeast, and this barrel. And if you start getting into the fun stuff like Jim Beam apple or peach, we're not allowed to call those bourbons. Those are flavored whiskeys because we infuse them with flavored liqueurs. And they're really tasty. Alright, so I'm going to pass this around. Y'all can take a closer look at it. As you're looking at it, I want you to look at the edge of the stave. See if you can find that red line running through the middle. The red line that you see on the edge of our stave is bourbon. It gets trapped inside that barrel. And we call that the soakage line. That shows you how far out that bourbon was pushed as it was aging into the barrel. Now we also call that, that was our last time. We also call that our devil's cut. So since our devil's cut, or our bourbon, is trapped in that barrel, we're not allowed to use it again. You have to use every single barrel just one time. Because if we were to put something new in there, the new stuff would also seep into the barrel. And it would eventually start blending with that devil's cut from last time. And that is not considered bourbon. So what we'll do is we'll use it once and then we'll sell it to somebody else. Because everybody else wants to put their scotch in it. Or their beer. Right? Or wine. If you put a white tequila in there, that's how you get a gold tequila out. Because it'll change color just like anything else. Thank you. Alright. Now we do have a Devil's Cut product that we sell. And for our Devil's Cut, what we've done is we've taken our bourbon out of this barrel and then we've thrown water in here. And we let the water extract the Devil's Cut from the walls of the barrel. And then we use our Devil's Cut to proof the bourbon we pulled originally. Yeah. So super bold, really flavorful. Drinking Devil's Cut is like licking the inside of a barrel. Okay, for lack of a better taste for them. Yeah. Alright, so now I need help with this next part. We're gonna start filling this barrel. Anybody want to help me fill a barrel?
Call Hasher.
Come on up. Yeah. There we go. What's your name? Veronica. Okay. If you don't mind, pull this nozzle back toward you. And then lift it up a little bit so everybody can see we're really filling this barrel here. Awesome. And then Veronica, if you don't mind, will you spill a whole bunch of it right up here?
Oh, there it is.
Excellent.
I can see.
Yeah, even spill a little more. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Now you can turn it off for me. And now when they check the cameras, I can blame it on you. Okay, so now you want to come on up. I want you to get some of this on your hand. If you want to taste it, please do. We're all over 21 with the exception of one tiny. So when you smell it the first time, it smells like alcohol.
Yeah.
But if you rub your hands together and smell it again, it'll change. Yeah, get a little more if you need to. It's really not bad. Sweeter than a lot of people expect.
Yeah.
So once you rub your hands together and smell it again, what's it smell like? I know.
Thought wood at first.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, absolutely. What I smell are tortilla chips.
What?
That's true.
Cornflakes, yeah. Whatever corn product I'm craving this morning. Yeah, you strip the alcohol out of that stuff and all you have left is corn. Because it takes up such a huge part of our
Picking up
recipe.
corn chips.
Now your hands are nice and soft. Feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I were to empty this right back out and I poured it into a couple different bottles, would I be allowed to call this a bourbon?
It's not been aged.
It's not been aged. Okay, well the law for bourbon, all it says is an extended period of time.
What's it say? It's been in there now for a couple hours?
Yeah. What I'm going to say is 20 minutes, that's fine. Okay, Emily at Jim Beam says 20 minutes, that's enough. So I'm going to bottle this, and legally, I can call this a bourbon. But I would not be allowed to call it a straight bourbon. So Kentucky straight bourbon, Florida straight bourbon, Texas straight bourbon. The only difference between bourbon and straight bourbon is that straight bourbon's at least 2 years old. Yeah. So if you go less than 2 years, you do legally have to specify how long you aged it. So mine would say Emily's bourbon. Well, what I'd do is I'd put a great big 20 on it. And then real tiny next to it, McMahon's. Yeah, and that's where I'd start losing people. So, yeah. So 20 minutes, it's not going to be a good bourbon, okay? We always make sure that our product is at least 4 years old. Okay, so that's just a standard we've set for ourselves. It's not legal. Yes. Now we had a product that we aged for just 1 year. It was called Jacob's Ghost. I don't know if you all ever heard of it or saw it anywhere. Jacob's Ghost actually did pick up quite a bit of color after 1 year, and we stripped the color from it and we sold it as a white whiskey. We didn't even try to call it bourbon. We could have, but we didn't want to fool with it. So, white whiskey. Absolutely. Now, 4 years to be a Jim Beam bourbon. We did fill our 15 millionth barrel March of 2018. Yes. Very exciting. I'm applauding you all. Okay? You keep drinking it, we'll be okay. We drink whiskey in here.